Hey, what's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are listening to an all-new Season 3 of the Mindshare Podcast, a proud member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at mindshare101.com and on all the major podcast platforms. This week's episode is sponsored by Kit's Keep in Touch Systems. Kits offers a fully loaded cross-channel marketing suite for the real estate industry, including tools to help you manage your business, build mindshare, and drive even more sales. You can learn more on my website, mindshare101.com, by clicking on Marketing. I also want to share that our push to 100 reviews is on. We're working to get to 100 reviews on iTunes, and so here's how this works. Please go to iTunes, rate the show, leave a review, and you will be entered into a draw to win a free strategy call with me. Today's episode is number 120. Once introduced as the darling of Canadian real estate, she is now a self-proclaimed washed-up HGTV host and next-gen Remax broker. She has survived 20 years of working with her family, and she has a gift for helping agents break down their limiting beliefs and maximize their natural gifts. And she knows that real estate is the greatest tool to increase our wealth and the wealth of our clients. This week, I am joined by Remax Realty Enterprises Broker owner Jodi Gilmour as we talk about the next generation of real estate. Jodi, welcome to the Mindshare Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, David.
Oh, it's a blast. I'm excited that you had the time to do it. This is cool. I like it.
Me too. Yeah, thanks for having me.
And
it's a little bit noisy here. We've got a sunny Port Credit's very sunny today. And so all of the bikes are out, which I know you can appreciate, but there will be some background noise.
You know what? I'm okay with that. I know that you were saying that before we got on air and you said, it's a little noisy. There's motorcycles in the background. I said, that is not noise. That is like, those are good background sounds. Those are like sound effects for the show. No, they go hand in hand. And, as I was saying before, I'm excited because I think after this show, I'm actually jumping on my bike for the first time in God knows how many months to take it down to the shop to get a few things worked on so that we've got a nice long season ahead of us.
Beautiful.
Yeah, excited. Okay, I got to clear something up right now because I know that there's people who are like gasping right now, whose jaws are on the floor, thinking like, did you just call her a washed up HGTV star? So I need to clear the air because it sounds like I just did that. Which I kind of did. Let's clear it up. You wrote that.
I wrote that. Yeah. So I had a really, really cool opportunity to host a show for HGTV in my early 30s, late 20s and early 30s. And we did, this is 10 years ago now. And we did 65 episodes of the show, but it was while I was getting married and I had two babies while we were filming and doing all the post work for the show. And so it was a really awesome opportunity. And I had so much fun with it. But it ended rather abruptly. And honestly, it's been only the last couple of years that I've been able to kind of own it, that I kind of started to put up some breaks, saying that I needed more time with my kids. And I had acknowledged that I couldn't be the mother I want to be at the same time as working as hard as I needed to do the job well. And I feel like I failed to take all the opportunity that show offered me, but there were still so many lessons in having done it. So it's fun. I'm glad I did it. Like, I would not take it back for the world. But yeah, there was a lot of opportunity that I missed. So there are some, like happy, sad, thoughts there. And I used to get recognized, and now I don't.
Well, but you know what? I mean, you had two kids.
I have,
yes,
3 now.
Well, 3. I mean, but I'm saying, and when you were doing that, you were in the middle of having children. So it's one of those things where you go, you still get recognized. It's just a different set of eyeballs. And maybe, the little people are a little bit more demanding than everybody else.
Oh, they sure are, as you know. Yes.
Definitely. Yeah. Hey, never mind. Joshua is going to be 10 this week, Friday.
Yes, that's wild.
To think that my oldest is going to be 10. It's this dose of reality that really hits home so many different ways, right?
Yeah.
But so, when we were initially talking about coming on the show, and I mentioned to you, and I know you know the concept around mindshare, but I mentioned like the show is all about building mindshare, right? And it's all about, for everybody tuned in, our audience that's out there, everybody's listening, be it live today, be it through iTunes and all the other platforms. My goal is always to help agents figure out how do they get out there and build more mindshare? How do they market their business so that they can, grow their business? And so that's kind of the basis of the conversation today. And so what I want to do is I also want to kind of set the stage a little bit here. Outside of the HGTV, how long have you been selling real estate? And like, I know it's been a family thing too for years.
Yeah.
I mean, that brings on its own, a whole other set of challenges.
Exactly. Yeah. So my dad brought Remax into this side of Canada when I was 18 months old.
Brought Remax to Canada or to this side of Canada?
He was partners with, no, I don't want to restart now. He brought Remax into this side of Canada with Walter Schneider and Frank Polsler.
Okay.
In 1980. So I was 18 months old. He was already a salesperson before I was born. So really, like I was at open houses and things in a pram, same as you, right? Yeah. Like we were completely raised in it. And then I wanted to travel the world, and my dad said, "Great, get your real estate license, and you'll be able to travel for months of the year." Yeah, that was 20 years ago. And yeah, I mean, yes, I've traveled, but I haven't done like the months and months of traveling that I thought I would do in this business. But it's been a wonderful, wonderful career. So the first 10 years, mostly selling, and then these past 10 years, mostly running the brokerage, right? So. Yeah. So it's been fun. And so I'm the third generation of realtors. My grandfather got into the business after my dad did. And then all of my dad's brothers and sisters joined him.
Okay.
So there's 5 siblings in my dad's generation. All of them are in the business. And then on the cousin level, there's 4 of us that are selling so far.
So far. Talk about working with family.
Yeah. So my business partners are my business partners in Remax Enterprises are my husband and my brother. Yep. And it's tough. It's really tough. They're very different thinkers and very different decision makers. And I'm sort of in between where I can get along with everyone and I can see everybody's side. So it's a lot of playing Switzerland. And then my dad is like kamikaze. Like he just makes, he was once described as having balls the size of watermelons. Excuse me.
I love those guys.
But yeah, for decisions that he made in building, like he kind of makes decisions based on gut instinct, and he sees the opportunity with his rose-colored glasses only. And he's had a lot of success, but it's been scary over the years. So we've, but I would say that we've all really clung together. And if you look at he and his brothers and sisters, they travel together. They have, dinners together as often as they can. They do everything together, and they're really, really tight knit. And I think that as a family who works together, we've done a really good job of putting the family relationships first and letting the business decisions be, a subsidiary thing. Have there been moments when people have been hurt? Yeah, for sure. But we've been pretty good at talking about it and working our way through.
Well, listen, you know what, I mean, there's a lot of trials and tribulations you go through working with family, but the one thing that you've got that is something you cannot buy is trust.
Right. And you've got each other's back, right? Like
that's the thing. Like the end of the day, the vested interest is really there for each other. And
yeah.
That's an important thing. And I say that to a lot of people, like even real estate teams or people thinking about partnering up. And I ask the question, like, what's your connection point with this person? Are you guys, are you married? No. Do you guys share a dog? No. Most people laugh at that one, but it's like, what is that connection point with you that says when, not if, and I'm not being a pessimist, I'm being a realist, when shit hits the fan,
yes.
Right? When shit hits the fan, have you got a contingency plan? How are you going to deal with it? How are you guys going to keep pushing forward together? Or are you going to throw your hands up in the air and separate? Because if you are, don't get started right now. Now, nobody knows it's going to happen, but I know for myself, being in this industry as long as I have, we've seen a lot of partnerships and a lot of teams, fold up or break apart, or shit happens.
Totally.
And people don't have a plan. right?
Yeah. So we actually had that conversation with a pair of individual agents who are incredible, but they feed off of the energy of having someone else. We actually suggested you as their coach because they have
We've already spoken.
good.
And thank
That's
you.
wonderful.
And thank
And
you.
they need a breakup plan.
Yeah. And
Like they
well,
really
that was one of the things I was talked about. Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah. They need a prenup
Yep.
to their real estate career.
And that's the important thing, right? And that's again where I was going about the family thing, around trust, right? And I love the fact that like your dad, known for like balls the size of watermelons. I mean, look, you look at a lot of the big successful people like in our world, never mind just our industry. A lot of these people have gone up in major ways, made a lot of money, and a lot of them have lost a ton of money along the way. But
Yeah.
it's those people that seem to have that knack for picking themselves back up and knowing that, the good things are there. Like, I mean, here, something that we talk about a lot is, um, the things you ultimately want are on the other side of fear,
Yeah.
right? And when you get over the fear or get past it or get to the other side of it, you realize you can do amazing things. And so
Right.
guys like your dad, there's no fear because they're like, I
Yeah.
got this. I know what's happening there. And to those people, it's like, that's the, maybe envy's the wrong word, but that's kind of that thing of like, you want to kind of have that knack inside of you to be like, we got this, let's go.
Right. And it's almost
Right.
like with what I see in my dad, it's almost like the opportunity is better than what failure would look like, or like it's worth it, right?
Yeah.
It's worth it to try. And if I fail, all right. Like he's so good at dusting himself off.
So awesome. What a demeanor.
Yeah.
We can only aspire to have that, right? So
Yeah,
tell me
and
this
it's
then. Yeah.
cool, like being raised by someone like that, right? Because
It's
like
cool though.
neither Ryan or I are that ballsy, or that like we both have like okay, like a little bit of caution,
Yep.
but yeah, just seeing that every single day and the positivity. Like he wakes up happy and positive
It's
every
amazing.
damn day, like
Isn't it
singing.
amazing?
It's crazy. It's
I got an
wonderful.
uncle like that who like balls out, doesn't matter. He'll take over the world. He doesn't really care. He's not scared of anything. And it's like he just makes things happen because he goes about life in this way of like, don't worry about it. We're good. We'll deal with it. And you're
Yeah,
like, wow, it's just what a demeanor, right?
yeah, it's
So
really
tell me this then. When we look back, and I mean, being in the industry and around the industry,
a long time.
for a long time, what's the one thing that hasn't changed?
I mean, it's a people business. It's not a house business and it's not a contract business. It's a people business, and human beings like to trust, like to get advice from other human beings who have more experience at something than they do, right? So, like, if you look at this, like, there's a lot of fear, I think, in our industry that the role of the realtor will die. That people will be buying houses online, sight unseen, and whatever. And I think like there's probably a little market for that. I think for investment for sure, people will be willing to buy something online and whatever. But I think when it comes to like the home you're going to raise your kids in, or like where you're going to retire, I think that because real estate is so connected to home, and the past year, like we have seen how important home is,
Mm-hmm.
but it's this combo of like where home is going to be, and it's an incredible investment. So having a really well experienced guide to help you through a really complex purchase or sale, that is both emotional and really highly monetary, I can't see the human side of real estate changing the way realtors work really a lot, going forward. I still think there's going to be need for full service realtors.
And you know what? I agree with you on that. Using that idea of fear that we just talked about, right? About not having fear. I think that there's something to be said about, and this just sort of came to me as you were saying this, but from a realtor's perspective, instilling a little bit of fear in clients, instilling a little bit of fear through your marketing. And it's not, again, painting doom and gloom, but we know that there's, ways that people like the iBuyer thing. We know that there's the, FISBO thing. How do you curb some of that? instill a little bit of the unknown, right? Like, did
Right.
you know about, you've got to understand the conditions and the clauses. And I mean, you say like biggest investment of our lives. This is our house. This is our home we're talking about.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, me personally, I want to be able to reach out and touch you. Like, I want to know that you're a real human being, that you've got like my best interest at heart, not that you're just going for the commission check. And we know whether it's a physical thing or not. There's a lot of realtors just going for the commission check, but there's a
Sure.
bigger play to it that says, like, when I truly feel that you've got my best interest at heart for the biggest purchase, biggest investment of my entire life, I feel like I got a security blanket,
Totally.
right?
Totally.
And I think that that's crucial because I don't know what I don't know. And I don't know about the clauses that I don't know about and the shit that could cost me 50, 60, 100 grand because whoops, made a mistake there. We don't know
Yeah,
these things.
exactly. Yeah, and you can use examples. Like I think if you're going back to marketing that, like there's a house up the street from my house that sold with, are we allowed to use brokerage names? But like a discount brokerage, and I swear to you, they left $75,000 on the table minimum. If only like, and it really really great buyer agent that does a ton of business, really knowledgeable in the area, and he's just like, well, my buyers did well.
Wow.
Like no shit, they did.
Yeah.
Good for
That's the
you.
thing though. When you don't know, you don't
Oh.
know, right?
And they think they saved money. Like that seller thinks they saved money.
I believe there's going to be a place for the realtor. I believe that continuing to explain the benefit of using a realtor is important. And again, just playing off the thing of fear, the unknown, or you can instill a little bit of that in people. And I think that that right there can get people to go, you know what? Yeah, maybe. And I mean, look, you said about people. We talk in the industry about maybe the realtor, disappearing or something. Um, Part and parcel of that is like, take every opportunity you can to present your offer. Take every opportunity you can to, not just quote unquote fax or email it over, but maybe deliver it a little bit. Like do that next level thing that goes, look, this is why I'm here. Right. Because
Yeah,
if
and
I
you're
feel
having
like I don't need you, you're just a cog on the thing now. It's like, why am I paying you?
yeah, exactly. And that's where like Jeff, my husband, is sells, and he was working on a deal like April last year. And it was a long while of negotiating. Same buyer came back a couple of times, and we finally got their agent did a video, and he said, he talked about the comps. He talked about the family that was buying. But he also talked about the comparables, and he said these are probably the comparables that you're using, and we're using the same ones, but I think we might be reading them differently. And he went through the exact same comps that we're using and just said, this is how my buyer is seeing them. You might be seeing them like this, because if I was working for you as a seller, that's probably how I'd be seeing them too. But this is how the buyer is seeing it. And ultimately, by doing that video, he warmed up those. It was four executors, three very hardened gentlemen who were selling their dad's home and living up to what their dad want, the value, the price that their dad, now deceased, wanted to get for their house and whatever. And he got through to them by using video. And I was like, you go.
See?
This is what we needed you to do, right? In order to get these, three brothers and a sister to agree and buy into the story of the people, but also they needed to see the logic behind the dollar amount.
There you go. You see, so leveraging video.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
He was
So
leveraging video to connect, but he connected in a way that was intellectual, like that addressed
yeah.
the money, but it also addressed the emotion.
Okay, well, and
Technology.
that's one of the big things too is when we talk about today, it's looking and saying like what kind of emotional pull can you put on people?
Right. Especially when you've got most of buyer agents right now are dealing with, how do I make my offer stand out if it's not going to be the number one
Yeah, that's right.
monetarily, right?
That's right.
So yeah, so sometimes telling that story, or telling the financial background of the buyer, right? Like, so the buyer who throws the most money at it might not be able to close the deal later.
Right.
So telling the story of like the heartfelt story of the person who wants to buy the house, and this is their financial backing, and this is why we know that regardless of whether it doesn't appraise closer to the closing date or whatever, they're still going to be able to close on your deal, and you're still going to be able to move on and do everything you need to do, right? So
I sure hope people are taking notes because this is again another show in a row where we've come up with a cool idea for how to better ourselves when we're in that sort of multiple offer situation. Because we had one, a few weeks ago about recording a video and getting the clients to actually record a video, not just do a cover letter. We had another one last week where it was like, record your video and send it out to, your database and tell them that you have a buyer that's looking. You're bringing up another one about recording a video. So, this actually takes me right into this of, what do you think is, so we just said like what hasn't changed. What do you think is the biggest change, and do you think it's positive or negative for us in this industry?
So the biggest change I've seen in my career is the transfer of information, right? So now we have a very well-informed buyer or seller, and they feel empowered for the most part. And that is threatening for some realtors who believe our value was access to the information. Like, do you remember like agents being really upset when realtor.ca became put just the listings? The listings became online instead of having the tear sheets and whatever that we saw our parents grow up with.
Yeah, right. Those black MLS tear sheets.
The buying public, had run through the Red Rover line towards the information, right? And now they have access to the sold information too. Now, what are we worth? Are we worth anything? Yes, you're worth all of your experience and all of your advice. And you've done this, you do this, 18 times or 27 times a year. And these people do it once every 7 or 10 years. So that's your value.
I like that.
Your experience. But so I would say the transfer of information, and therefore how we explain our value. Our value isn't access to the information. Our value is in the advice, the experience we have, and the advice we give, and how we walk people through this, emotional and financial decision.
I like that answer, the transfer of information. Oftentimes in conversation, I'm sure you have that conversation with people as well. You hear from agents. And I mean, when we talk about remaining relevant and all those other things, but, one of the questions is like, what is that big thing that is, here? What is that bright, shiny object? Or what is that, what's in our way? And oftentimes we talk a lot about technology, and we talk a lot about, ads and where to get leads or whatever. But yeah, unique answer. I like that. So, and the way you brought that up then kind of flows right here, because you had said that, and I read for you, but in the bio, helping agents break down their limiting beliefs and maximize their natural gifts.
Yeah.
And I want to say, tell me more, how and what do you do with that? And I think it plays in well to what you also just said around an agent almost believing and going I'm scared. I think that they're going to go and do something online without me because, they got access to it. But it's wait a second, don't limit what you bring to the table. Right. Exactly. So tell me more about this.
So I sort of accidentally fell upon this little gift I have of helping people. And so mostly through, I have been a Buffini mentor, right? Yep. But becoming a Buffini mentor when I was 25, 26 years old in my dad's brokerage was such a wonderful way for me to connect with our agents and understand what they need and what their concerns are, what their fears are, and whatever. And over the years, I've had beautiful opportunities to get to know people who are struggling, right? So I've seen people make millions of dollars in this business, and I've seen people fall and life savings out the window and whatever, right? But there've been a few moments where I've been able to do some one-on-one coaching with agents and help them, just ask them enough questions that I figure out what's stopping them. So there's one guy who's number one in my dad's office these days, and he told me, Miss Jodi, I think I'm going to leave the business. And he's like, I can't do this anymore, and I'm not. If I don't break through, by November or whatever, I have to leave the business. And so we started meeting after our Buffini 100 Days to Greatness sessions, and he's part of a really small community of people who here in Canada. Looks Muslim, he's Catholic, so he's part of this church, and he had a really hard time communicating his value to people in his church, and they were the people who would trust him and like him already, but he felt uncomfortable talking about business. So we really worked on his value, and he's not going to say the old Buffini line, I'm never too busy for any of your referrals or whatever. That didn't work for him. Right. So we had to change it around in a way where he really started to believe he was bringing them value and helping them achieve the Canadian dream, and just ask them how they are, and ask them how they are, and he was able to, and this guy had I think culturally he thought for business you were supposed to be very stoic, and he wouldn't crack a smile, and I was like, Allah, you light up a room when you smile. open up your heart and like just help people. Just come to it from your helping people. And then, as the weeks went by, he was like, I spoke to people at my church and they were like, talk more. And I'm like, did you smile? There's been a few there's like 7 or 8 people. Actually in January, I got a beautiful note for a woman who doesn't work for me anymore. So like, I coached her. Now she's off on a brokerage, but I got this beautiful note after 4 years. And she says, Jodi, you changed my life.
Oh, wow.
Right?
That's amazing. What a
brought me to my knees. And I'm like, you know what? Like I coached her one-on-one through a really, really hard time in her life. And we became very close and helped her make some really tough decisions. Like I helped her make the decision to leave her husband and talked her through what it was like when my parents broke up and how I felt about my mom and how I felt about my dad and how our relationships changed and all that jazz. And how they survived and how they got better because my parents were not this unit that was messed up, but they were individuals who were hurting and healing, and so we went through all of that together. And through that, she was able to, by removing herself from the toxic situation, she was able to blossom into an enormously incredible agent. So cool. And then 4 years later, I get this thank you note. That's just amazing. So I feel like there's a lot of realtors out there with this like thing in their head telling them they can't. And if you help them shift it, and I'm not going to say like, it's always like, you should go get divorced. But
just go get divorced. You'll be fine. Everything will get better.
But yeah, there seems to be this knack I have with some people that I coach. Yeah. I'm able to help them lift that little chip, that little thing that's blocking them.
That's what it comes down to a lot of times too, is we are all human. We all have something that's circling around the back of our minds that is swirling around, that's or slowing us down or making us hesitate or procrastinate or just, it's a limiting belief.
Sure. Yeah.
And totally. Sometimes we just need somebody on the other side to go, hey, get your chin up, let's go. And all of a sudden you've got the empowerment. Sometimes it goes a lot deeper. Sometimes it's that surface level. Right.
And even this, like teaching. So one of the things doing the TV show, of course, there were lots of moments where I was like, what am I doing? Imposter syndrome, because the TV show had a real estate element and a design element. And I'm like, I loved interior design, but I am not a trained interior designer. Right. So, imposter syndrome. And then they want you to talk about real estate in such general ways. And it wasn't like, these are not the real rules. I don't want to be on TV not doing the real rules, so there was a lot of that. But the things I learned about being on camera have helped me coach agents be on camera, right? Like cool. Visualizing. Yeah. On TV, I would, when I was trying to like get into character and know who I was, I made up these little words. So my like identifier was loving diva, and it's like, I'm so not a diva. Like I'm an I'll be in the woods kind of gal, but it was like, I care so much about the client, but I know more about real estate and I know more about design than they do. So that was the diva part of it. And then I always pictured my favorite cousin. I have lots of cousins, and I hope none of them are watching. But anyway, my favorite cousin from growing up was living in England at the time, and I basically pictured that on the other end of the lens was Mandy, and that she was basically cool. Showing her a day in the life. So I had to be genuine, or they'd know, right? She'd know. So those kinds of things are really helped me with coaching agents how to just get their blocks. Get all the blocks about video, because video is this thing where like people are like, oh, I can't do that. I hate the sound of my voice. I don't like the inflections or whatever. I don't like how I look, but you're willing to go and show houses in front of someone.
Well, you get up in the morning, you look in a mirror, you talk to people, you get on a phone. Like that's what you look like. That's what you sound like. Like if you can look at yourself in the mirror, get over this whole thing about video and embrace it, because we need to leverage it.
So deep, like like getting over it is way harder than you and I saying just get over it, right?
Listen, it is, but here's the thing too, right? When I go back to some of the first videos I've done, and I have played some of these videos on stage in front of an audience of hundreds or even 1,000 people, and I've watched how people laugh at me. but they're not really laughing at me. They're almost cheering me on to go like, I cannot believe you. Cause I'll stand there on stage while it's happening. I'll be like, oh my God. Right. Cause I know people are staring at me as well, not just looking at the video, but it's to let people know like, listen, I'm embarrassed about that too. That was 4 years ago. I'm showing it to you guys. There's 1,000 of you here. I'm going to show it to you, but oh my God, I cannot believe I'm showing this to you.
But the point is, look at me now.
This is
practice.
Look at me now, but it's also the same thing to say to people that I still don't feel like I've perfected it. I'll just tell you that I'm more consistent than the average bear. I'll tell you that I leverage video for everything I do. Every day I'm doing some sort of video.
Right.
But I'm not thinking about it anymore, Jodi.
Yeah.
And the reason that I'm not is because I decided, however long ago, to press that button and then not only press it, but post it. And then I did it again. And, this is the other thing for everybody to understand too, right? Is that I'll tell you, for most times that I post a video, and these days I don't even rewatch them anymore. Like I don't want to find the screw up. I just want to go because I'm doing another one next week anyways. And then I'm doing another one the week after too. Right.
Yeah.
And God knows like the other 4 times are going to go live this week anyways. So really big deal.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is when I initially did it and pressed record and then edit and post it, you look back on those and you go, oh my God. But at the moment they sounded okay.
Right.
And there's times where you're like, oh my God, I'm cringing. I can't believe I'm going to post this thing. You post it and you go back to it a little while later. You're like, that wasn't bad. That was actually a good message right there. There's going to be good. Yeah. There's going to be bad. There's going to be, okay. There's going to be really bad. Maybe listen, consistency.
Exactly. Right? And it doesn't matter. I think what I learned by doing the TV show and by the reactions I got from people like on Facebook or whatever, people who had watched the show, video for realtors is really just about gaining likability and trust. So it doesn't necessarily matter what you're saying about the real estate market. It's their or your family or that house or whatever. It's them having an experience with you that's closer to real life than they would if you typed it out or if they just heard your voice, right? It's their experience of you. And if they have enough positive experiences of watching you be silly or say something stupid or whatever, it increases your humanity and your likability. And like I used to get texts from people like, I feel like you're my sister, or I feel like I can trust you or whatever. Can you come to, Timbuktu and help me place, and help me design it? I'm like, well, no, we can't do that. But, that's cool. Like it's so neat that they feel so connected.
You remember the Jetsons, like back in the day, we all used to look and go like, are we really going to one day be talking to each other on like this kind of thing? It was like the phone with
on
the video.
Watch,
I mean,
right?
yeah, you could do it on your watch. You could do it from 5 different apps on your phone. You can do it on God knows how many apps on it. Like it is part of our world today. And when we talk about the things that have and have not changed, I mean, video is one of these things that just allows you to continue to do the people person thing and add another marketing tactic into that whole thing. So, speaking of marketing strategies, then what are some go-to strategies? In fact, even if I said it to you like this and I was like, I'm an agent. I am slow right now. What would you recommend that I do, I guess, in order to 1, bolster more business, and 2, are there specific marketing strategies that you might say, hey, this is the type of stuff you should be leaning to at this moment?
Okay. I'm a terrible marketer. And if you look at my Instagram and my Facebook and our company's Instagram and Facebook, you'll understand. Like I'm terrible at it.
I did look, and I will say, I will give you a positive on it. You've got a lot of family stuff on there, and I can really connect with who you are as a person. Right.
Okay. So my Insta is just me. It's not, I haven't been focused on building business through my Insta and whatever. But anyway, I honestly think, I've watched the power of Bomb. I honestly think I would do videos, even with like your older people. I think if you look at all the grandparents, like don't your parents and grandparents FaceTime with your kids? Like they know.
Absolutely they do.
To be able to connect with the grandchildren in the way that the children can connect, right? Like my grandmother, my mère, is 87. She'll be 88 in May, and we got her an iPad at the very beginning of COVID so that all the great grandchildren could FaceTime with her, and she wouldn't be so lonely in her apartment.
Talk about mind blown. 87-year-old woman on an iPad,
all she
FaceTiming.
she has FaceTime and she has Instagram, so she can and she's only following
I
her grand.
love it.
But she's doing it. So what this means to me is you could video visit anyone in your community. And I think right now the best thing you can do is call someone up and say, hey, do you mind if I turn this call into video, and look at their face and ask them how they are. Like, honest, how are you? It all starts with how are you, right?
Oh, well, you remember, were you in Niagara Falls with us for reality last year? Or Rhea?
I signed up and there was a snowstorm.
Okay.
I was supposed to be there because Charlene, who works with us, was getting a big award. So I was signed up, I paid for a hotel room, and then there was a huge snowstorm and something happened with one of my kids, so I didn't go.
That snowstorm was that night where Charlene was getting her award. We all piled over to the venue where it was happening. We're like, we're going to hell or high water to be there for her, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really cool. But the reason I brought that up was Chris Voss, FBI negotiator, never split the difference, who's also been on the podcast. He said that, and he said, you know, one of the things you can do, because, and what he said to us as well, in the way he staged it was, he's like, the worst thing you can ever ask somebody is, how are you? And you're sort of sitting there like, huh? Oh, wait. He goes, here's why. As a negotiator, one thing we teach other negotiators is not to ask, how are you, unless you mean it. So it's like, go on, and I'm listening, right? He says, because when you ask that question, you're asking it to somebody, and this is like in the negotiation part of things, like somebody's kid just got like taken away, you know, like hostage situation. She's like, do not ask that family how they're doing. They are not doing well.
They're not doing well.
So if you're just going to ask it to be like, hey, how you guys doing? Here's an update. You've just set people off in a completely wrong place. He says, so when you're going to ask that question, and now he comes back to it, he goes, you ask it like you mean it.
Yeah.
And when somebody's like, yeah, I'm good, he goes, no. How are you?
Yes.
So I like your approach there. I do. And so as opposed to saying you like, no, he said, don't do that. It's how you do it. And I like the video thing you just brought up.
Do it if it's genuine. So we have this really cool guy in our office. He runs the top team worldwide for that like size category. His name is Peter Papasek, and he is Czech, and he's got a really thick accent. Like he sounds a little bit like Gru from the
Minions or whatever, right?
Despicable Me.
Yeah.
Minions and whatever, right? So and he's like really hard to understand on the phone. I've gotten to know him over these, you know, we've been working together for about 7 or 8 years, and like love the man dearly. When he calls you, he says, hi, how are you? And you answer once, and then you ask him how he is, and he says, fine, thanks. How are things? He asks it twice. And we're like, Peter, why do you do that? And he's like, because I get a better answer the second time.
Yeah. I love it. It's so powerful. And I mean, here, you brought up with video and make the call, right? And I mean, I stress to everybody, make your calls every day. Call people, say what's up, talk to people, even if it's just a hi, how you doing call, even if it's talk about the shitty Leafs game last night, like whatever it is, just call people and talk, right?
Yeah.
And by doing that, you're going to learn more from that person. You're going to understand more about what's going on in their world, and it's just going to open up more opportunity.
Totally.
Right? So it's like, just pick up and call.
Yeah. What the Papasek team is doing, what I noticed that they're doing, so they work a very tight farm area, and they used to be cold callers.
Yeah.
Sorry, not cold callers. They used to be door knockers.
Yeah.
And so now it's like really not good to door knock. But what I noticed they're doing is they're matchmaking. So they're they basically have a whole database of people who might sell or might buy, and they share all that with each other, right? So they're like, this one might buy something like this, and this guy might buy something like that, and they just try to, but they'll use like, I have a buy. So if they have someone who might buy something, they'll go find the house that is like that and say, if I could find a buyer, might you sell? And they're doing this matchmaking thing. It's so frustrating for everyone else on the market because all this stuff sells without, like, they sell it before it goes on the market. They also do this thing where they're
love that.
Take the listing.
That's hustle. Like that's the next level, right? That's the effort. Like that takes time.
Yes, exactly. And so they take everything before it's ready to go on the market. So they'll do like quite a long exclusive period of time, and they'll put it on Broker Bay. Sometimes it doesn't go on Broker Bay, and it's just a pocket listing for them while it's getting ready to go, right? Like while it's getting ready for market, and they try their damnedest to sell it themselves before they put it on the market.
Prove their value too. Moves fast. People are happy.
So it's working.
Yeah, that's good. So tell me this, you brought up door knocking, and I would say that, and I say this all the times, and so I sound like a broken record for sure, but 96% of people don't want to door knock. Of the 4% who do, 99% say they see business from it.
Totally.
Now, I am not advocating door knocking during COVID, and I know it's sort of against the recommendations of Maria and everything else, so like we're not going down that road, but I am going to say that it does work, and it is a wonderful support mechanism to geographic farming and community marketing and whatnot. Now, with that though,
aspect of a multi-layered approach to a geographic farm,
and it's the support, right? You have to support it. You cannot look, whether you're doing flyers, you're doing digital ads, you are doing the bus shelter, bus bench, or the billboards, or the boards at the hockey rink.
Yeah,
you need something else injected to that same audience in order to truly build the mind share. So that people go, oh, seen her there. Oh, yeah, I seen her before too. Now we're starting to connect some dots, right?
Yeah, I feel like you the purpose of a geographic farm is to turn addresses into relationships. So you need a way to meet the people. And there's going to be some people who, for you and I, we would meet them at karate or dance or drop off, at least school drop off or pickup or whatever. Like we have our kids that we can leverage. But what about the people who aren't parents, who aren't, in our age bracket? How do we meet them? How can we be where they are or where they go? They're not at the park. Maybe they're at the arena. Maybe they're curling. There's how can you possibly be where they are so you get to meet them? And if there's going to be, some demographics within your farm area that you can't have access to. So you have to knock on the door when it's safe to do so.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I would say also, if anybody here is going, yeah, like serious, that was a great question. She says, where do you meet people? I'm going to encourage, social media groups are an amazing place to meet people, because there are people there that like the group. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows I got a hockey rink in my backyard this year, which is very quickly becoming a swimming pool. But there are a lot of groups on Facebook for backyard hockey rinks, and it's literally called Backyard Hockey Rink. So like every single person that's in this group happens to have an interest in backyard hockey rinks. Perfect. So when you tap into that group, what do you think you talk about? I don't know, backyard hockey rinks, right? We've got a commonality with each other. We've got something in common that we can continue to talk about. And God knows, if you're a backyard hockey rink person, you might be a hockey person. If you're a hockey person, of course, you're most likely a Leafs fan. I mean, who's not a Leafs fan? But even if you're not, you're like that small percentage that's not a Leafs fan. We got some stuff we can talk about.
Exactly.
We've got commonalities. We've built a relationship. So you could be dogs, horses, skiing, doesn't matter. There's always things to talk about. So if you're wondering, where do I meet people? What do I do to grow my biz right now? One of the best places you can go to have new conversations and build new relationships is go to a Facebook group.
For sure. A Facebook group for something that you're genuinely interested in.
Well, be genuinely interested in, and don't go in there and be like, hey, you like rinks? Me too. I'm a realtor.
Right. Exactly.
No, let them find out for themselves, right?
Yeah.
But speaking of that, because door knocking and cold calling and Facebook groups, all these people are strangers. And when we look at our audience, we know we've got the two. We've got the people we know, we've got the people we don't know. And as you just said as well, really what we're doing with group number two, the strangers, we're trying to build relationships, right? Yeah. Where do you see the majority of, let's even go to like to the high level and go like our top producers? Where do they get the majority of their business from? Specifically, what kind of marketing tactics are they using? What seems to really be working?
Oh, okay. So I have so many people doing so many different things.
Yeah.
And I feel like with my top producers, they each have just found their community of people and figured out a way to get to know them. Like we've got Olivia Torin, who does a ton of video, and she's she's beautiful. She's always got the, the filters and sparkles and all the stuff around her. She shares a lot of stuff about her home life and her family. And then there's a lot of real estate stuff that she filters in. So she is creating an online community that is working for her. And then you've got guys who, don't market at all, but they're deeply involved in a golf club. And they basically, have all the listings that come out of that golf club. So I think the top producers have just figured out who their target audience is, and they have gone there. They've gone to where that target audience hangs out, be it virtual or real.
So it comes back to finding the commonalities, building the relationships, and continuing to focus in on there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a people business, just where you started off today off the top. It's a people business.
Yeah, it's a people business. So the more people you're in touch with every day who build a trust in you, who trust you, like you, have a positive experience with you, then all you have to do is prove that you're competent at what you do, and you're in there. You have a really high chance of getting their real estate business when the time comes. So
we talked about social media briefly. And we talk about video, and we talk about prospecting and door knocking. And I sort of mentioned the online stuff. Do you have a preference between farming flyers versus digital ads? Do you think they go hand in hand with each other? Is there one that maybe is better than the other? I mean, do you have feedback on just what you see from your people in terms of like maximizing returns?
I couldn't point you towards $1 million producer who does not farm and use flyers in their farm.
Okay, cool. That's an interesting one. I like that.
Yeah, I think a farm area has to have a layered approach. You need to have the digital as well. Yeah. If you don't at least have some budget for ending up in their mailbox, you're not in business.
It's interesting too, as we talk about flyers, that just hit me, talking with my team yesterday at Kits, and we were just going through numbers and go through a whole bunch of different stuff. And one thing that did come up was that flyers are way up right now, which means like everybody is coming out of somewhere and deciding, hey, it's time to start flyering. We've got a ton of people reserving neighborhoods. Like we've got people that are now doubling up, being like, oh, can I get that one? We're like, sorry, it's already reserved. So people are like starting to realize that. And there's a lot of phone calls coming through and a lot of inquiries coming through like, hey, can I reserve that neighborhood? And so it's interesting that you say, you haven't met one person that doesn't, who's at the top of their game. Right. We're seeing a lot of people doing it right now. So it's interesting.
Yeah, but it's one. It validates you in a geographic farm that you're going to be consistent in for years and years and years. You can't just go like I've seen agents waste so much money because they're like, oh yeah, I tried flyer campaign for 8 months and I didn't get any phone calls. And you're like, oh,
it takes so much longer than that though, right? Like you got to be able to stick it out 12 to 36 months. You got to budget for that too,
and layer on all the other stuff. You need to be on the PTA and show up at the park and, show up at the spring cleanup or organize the spring cleanup. Like you've got to be an active member of a community, as well, right? So they need to be able to see your signs, see your flyers, see you being a human being. You need to be at the grocery store. I feel like it is such a layered approach that is required to do a farm area well. And I think it takes time to build.
It takes time and it takes budget. You've got to be focused. Like you've got to know what your budget is. We see that so often. People come in and go, what do I do to build my business? Okay, I'm going to pick a farm area. No rhyme or reason. They just go out, they pick it. They spend the money. 3 months later.
Houses. And you're like,
but like they don't get the return. It's like, oh my God, I don't know what to do now. I can't afford it anymore.
Houses for a long time.
Say it again?
Not 10,000 houses for a short
period.
300 houses, long time.
Right.
Knock on all those doors. Once everybody knows you, then you can add to your farm area, right?
And that's exactly it. Start small, start to build it up, get known from people. So challenges. What do you think's sort of the biggest challenge we are faced with right now in this industry?
Well, one of the things that like sort of breaks my heart, I did a training program with my friend Lauren Andrews, who's sort of been my buddy. He's a DLC lending guy, and he's been my buddy in doing our Buffini courses together for 4 or 5 years. And he said to me yesterday, a year ago yesterday, he goes, "There's going to be a big shift, and within the next 5 years, 40% of the people who are in this business will be out, and it will be because they have not caught up with tech."
It's funny because I
And
was just going to ask you where we headed in the next 5 years. So yeah,
yeah,
keep going with this. Okay.
so I was like, that is appalling. And I need to just grab all of my people who are having a hard time with tech and just help them and help them and help them. And then COVID hit like the next day.
Yeah.
So, and I saw like 10 or 15% of my people unable to keep up and unable to work. So I think there is a huge shift happening right now. And there's a lot of people who are just basically thinking like, now's the time I retire, ready or not, now's the time I retire. What I am hoping, I'm hoping that there is a shift towards agents being responsible enough with their own finances that they invest in real estate and invest in themselves, right? Like some of the people who I've seen have to leave the business after this year of massive tech weren't ready financially. And it's because all these years they were a realtor, they weren't buying real estate. Like that's your retirement plan, right? Like we should be buying and buying.
So should we be buying right now with the prices the way they are?
Buying anytime you can. Honestly,
Spoken like a true realtor. So no, but in a good way, I say that.
yeah,
The thing about tech though, and I wanna give a breath of fresh air to everybody right now in terms of especially those folks that have been in the business for some time that feel like they're getting lost with the technology. We started off the top, and I was very specific about asking that question around what hasn't changed. And I did that because both you and I have experience in this industry as like little people as well, not just grown
yeah,
adults. Um, and when we look at it, and we can still both of us today sit here and like agree 100% wholeheartedly, it's a people business.
yeah.
That hasn't changed.
It's a people business and it's the very, very simplest and easiest way to build wealth.
Okay. So
It
with
is.
all that, then to sit back and say that technology is going to be the thing that pushes somebody out of the business, I want to reassure everybody right now that if you continue to hone in on your people skills, you can still survive in this industry. Now it's a matter of, do you want to put in the effort to try to learn some of these technologies that are there? And look, video is actually very, very easy. Instead of clicking a picture for a camera, click video. Talk.
Exactly.
Get used to it. There's a million things we can go through together, and I'm sure you teach people, and I've got a lot of ways that I teach people how to leverage video. There's ways we can teach you to help you get better at it, but the first step is put in the effort.
Exactly. I sat in this room for 3 Fridays in December, masks on with 3 guys who are 60.
Okay.
And we
Just
learned
comfort,
DocuSign,
right?
and we learned transaction desk, and we learned web forms, one a week, and they were like, Jodi, it's just embarrassing to ask questions in front of, in front of all my colleagues and the younger people and whatever. I feel silly. And I was like, well, do you feel good with you and you feel good with you? Great. Meet me on Friday mornings.
Yeah.
We're going to sit down and we're going to help you overcome some of this, and now they're doing offers online and, they're doing
But don't like,
it's great.
don't feel silly, and look, I get it all the time because I'll be on this end and I'll be asking questions and people don't want to ask because they feel like they're going to feel silly. But remember something too, is that, everything we've learned through tripping over ourselves. We've learned through falling down. We've learned through making mistakes. We've learned through asking questions. And
Exactly.
somebody has a question about everything. There's somebody that's got a question about something that maybe you don't have. There's a question you have about something that somebody else doesn't have. So when you ask that question, you may be helping somebody else right there. And we said this, help people, right? The more you help people, the more you will be helped.
Exactly.
The
Yeah.
whole thing about looking down the hall at, who's doing online lead gen, who's doing Facebook ad, don't worry about all that stuff. There are ways to leverage this stuff without having to spend the money. There's really easy ways to learn this stuff, to use it in the basic sense, but always remember it's about helping people and it's a people business, period.
Yeah, it's about your people for sure.
Right?
And it's just connecting with them as much as you possibly can. Yeah. We are finding coaching, like our agents are wanting small group or one-on-one coaching. And so Ryan and I are spending like all of our days in small group or one-on-one coaching with our agents. And just helping them through. We're like, what's happening in your business? Tell me where you need help. And we're sitting with them and going through, sometimes learning it with them, but yeah, for the most
amazing.
part.
It's good support though. Good support systems.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you know it's been a successful day for you?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Wow. And to be honest, okay, so my dad used to come home and we would run to the front door and we would say, "Did you sell a house today, Dad?"
No pressure.
Right? Like he did 75 deals his very first year in the business. So for him, it was like actually like most days he said, yeah. So the rule was if he sold a house, we all ran to the kitchen together. But if he didn't sell a house, Ryan and I each got to grab a leg and put one foot on each, or put our feet on his foot. And he would have to walk us into the, like we would basically use his
Holy
leg.
jeez. Did he ever not come home some nights? Like, talk about pressure, the weight on this guy.
He wanted it though. He always wanted it. He always asked for accountability, right? So, but for me, a really great day was when one of our agents had a really big win. That feels great. Today we had a gal, super whippersnapper, just email us and say she's joining our brokerage. She's going to start with us.
Cool.
We had one last week. We've had a really great recruiting couple of weeks where back from a team that had stolen them a couple of years ago, and they're back now and happy to be here and excited and fired up. We've got that one couple, two individuals that are going to do a partnership. It's so exciting right now.
Oh, so good. I love hearing it. I'm so pumped for you. That's amazing.
Yeah.
You know what? But look, you're taking the time. You're building out a real proper culture over there, and we've been able to see it for years that you guys run a good ship. You're helping your agents. You're creating that relationship. It's a people business. Those are all the right things, right?
We're trying. And now we're staring down the barrel of our dad's 500 agents. So he's talking about it being pretty close to the time that we expand our leadership wings there a little further than they already are. So that's exciting too, right? It's a great group over there at Remax Specialists, my dad's company. So so we'll see.
Nice. Tell me, just watching the clock here, what last words or tips can you share so that everybody who is tuned in can get out there and help themselves build more mindshare?
About building mindshare, I think it's okay if it's one person at a time.
Cool. I like that.
If it's one person at a time, talking to people one-on-one, but hey, leveraging video and leveraging social media is a way to expand it really quickly, right? To connect with a lot of people at once. And there's no better way to do that than with video.
Cool. Jodi, for anybody that wants to talk to you further, get in touch with you guys, learn more about the brokerage, learn more about what you're up to, where can people find you?
Jodi at jodigilmour.com is my email address. I prefer text. So, or you and I connected on Facebook. Facebook is where we chatted for the first, number of times that we had conversations. Jodi Gilmour, Jodi with an I, Gilmour is O-U-R. And then I'll throw my number into the chat. So,
cool. Yeah. Throw it in the comments if you want into, on the Facebook Live. We'll get that out there. And then, it's been absolutely awesome. I want to really thank you for all the time and the insights today.
Thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun. You're fun to chat with.
You're either listening to this on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. Or maybe you downloaded our free Industry Syndicate podcast app, or maybe you went to my website, mindshow101.com. And while you're on my site, make sure to download your free copy of the Ultimate Marketing Bundle for Realtors. This is a 31-page ebook packed with a ton of tips and tricks for you. Plus, there's a ready-to-go 90-day social media content calendar to help you build more mindshare so that you can get more market share. And if you want to talk about personalized one-to-one coaching to help you get to your next level, just get in touch with me. We'll set up a free consultation call. We'll learn more about what you're looking to achieve and, how I will help you do just that. And also, please don't forget that our Push to 100 is on. So be sure to go to iTunes, subscribe to the show, leave a review, rate us, and you will be entered into a draw for a free one-to-one strategy session with me. And to all of you who've already done that, thank you. We are grateful for you. And if you haven't yet, connect with me on Facebook at Mindshare101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan 101. And of course, I want to once again thank Kit's Keep in Touch Systems for sponsoring today's episode. If you haven't checked this out yet, just go to my site, mindshow101.com, and click on Marketing. This has been another episode of the Mindshare Podcast. Thank you for tuning in.